Just like that jolt of caffeine you need just to tolerate the world around you. It's the QueerCentric with your host, Queer Lead Jonny.
Hello, everyone. It is another amazing episode of the QueerCentric. We've been talking about this show for a little bit now. People are very excited. I think the world right now just needs caring people. That's what I'm thinking. Because everybody was excited. We're going to talk a lot about mom hugs with the Mom Brigade that is in a studio with me right now. But before we get to that, I just have to point out something. I'll be putting up pictures, but the curter is on the boards today because Daniel is not in the studio, and he brought a little friend, and I love that. So little Olive is with you. You should do like a walk by. Just do it. Maybe walk creepily behind our Mom Brigade so this camera can get you. But this little baby, I'm sorry, me and animals, I can't. It makes me want to go home and get my dog. I love it. And this little baby has a brother who had to go have a procedure, which is why she's hanging out with her dad over there. And her brother probably will never make it in the studio because he will eat all of us. He's a very feisty little boy. He's a little velociraptor. I once brought my dog to Kurt's house, and that guy would sneak. He would sneak behind me on the couch and then try to take my dog out around. I mean, he's good. He could go to war. Like, he's a soldier. Okay, pardon me while my contact flips out of my eye. Anyways, so very excited. Remember, we just want to remind you to always be checking. We like to promote Spokane and things to do in the area. And so we want to continue to do that. Please go to SpokaneBroadway.com so you can see any of the Broadway shows that are coming through, because Tina Turner's story is heading our way. And who doesn't like to see that? I saw her live years ago. There's nothing better than this. I saw her with Cyndi Lauper. That was how gay I was. And still am. But it was absolutely amazing. But so remember to check the Bing Theater. You want to check the Fox Theater. You want to check, of course, Broadway, Spokane. Lucky You Lounge is one of my new favorite places. Check that. Always go out there. It looks like I'm crying. That's how happy I am that you guys are here. All of a sudden, I'm crying. Listen, it's a special show. This is a very special episode of Blossom. So, without further ado, what I want to do is say thank you and welcome all three of you making a trek to come to the QueerCentric. So, hopefully, you'll have a good time. You can let me know after. But you can fake it during. But before we begin the Mom Brigade, I would love to go. Each one, I'd like you to just say who you are, what your name is. You can share first and last, just first, whatever you're comfortable with, and why you're part of this accepting moms, because not all of us are that lucky. So I would like to just a little snippet of your story. We're going to get into it more a little later. So whoever wants to start, you are welcome.
I'll start. My name's Trudi Beckett. I guess I'm part of this Mom Brigade because I have two queer kids. Aww. And it's been educational and it's been amazing, and I just want to make sure that my kids know that no matter who they are or, what they do, that their mom always has their back.
See, I'm all right. Now it's real crying right here. I think that's beautiful.
Hi, I'm Michelle White, and I also have two kids that are LGBTQ. Our kids are all friends.
Oh.
And so, yeah, we navigating North Idaho and all the hate and things that happen at our local schools.
Legislation and everything. It gets pretty scary.
I do have a trans child and a bi child. So those are my two ends of that.
Oh, so many things now is coming to my head I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And for you?
Hi, I'm Jessica Kaminski, and I have 3 queer kiddos.
Wow.
Youngest is 9, oldest is 15, and she is also trans. And we are trying to navigate the waters of gender-affirming care, but because we live in Idaho, the doctors out here are hesitant to help because there's a huge risk for me and for them. So,
which is also even more like disheartening that in the states you can go, there is this fear. And we're going to get into the fun stuff that, and it's not just, I think there's 13 states currently and more coming on that already have laws that are not helpful to our children. So, yeah, it's hard, not impossible, especially when you have moms who are backing you up. You know what I mean? Because moms are fierce. You don't want to mess with them, and you don't want to mess with their kids. And so I'm that person who always believes in hope, even when it's not, it doesn't seem like it would make sense, because it's the only thing that keep us going. So I want to ask, because each of you have, so is it helpful in a family that has more than one queer child? Is that helpful together, or is that just kids are kids and, siblings will be siblings?
I would say a little of both.
Yeah.
I think that my boys are 12 and 15. My 15-year-old is gay, and my 12-year-old is not straight but not sure of where he falls.
Right.
Still
figuring it out.
discovering himself. Yeah. And I think that they do, have a little bit of that, like, hey, we're in this together, but they're still siblings and they still fight like crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That means they're doing good.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I feel the same. Yeah, mine are 15 and 13, and my oldest is very protective of my youngest, and so I find that they do fight like siblings.
Right.
Totally fight, but they are very protective of each other in a different way too. So they've been always very comfortable with each other. So
see, and that's helpful, I think.
yeah,
I mean, kind of the same.
Keep talking. Don't.
Okay.
Don't, when we do little signals, just keep
Okay.
going.
I mean, I feel kind of in the same. They're 9, 11, and 15, and it's been
Damn.
just the three of us for the last 6 years. So they are ridiculously close, but they also fight like they're ridiculously close. But
I feel like it would be different if they weren't. You know what I mean? And that's why I was curious, because I mean, you can share things with your siblings, and it's still, when you're discovering yourself, that's your world. You know what I mean? And you're dealing with it, and you don't always want, a sibling's opinion in your world. So I'm sure.
And it's funny because my 15-year-old will share more with her 9-year-old sister, and she's the one that will tell me that, like, she has a girlfriend, or, and I'm like, why are you telling your 9-year-old sister?
Right.
Like, come on.
I will say, I believe as they hit those 20s, it's going to change everything, because then they will share. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, sure. Okay. That's how it worked in my family. So who knows? Not that they had, when I came out, my brother threw knives at me. So it took a while. Yeah, we were very religious, and apparently that means violent. So my brother is my best friend now. So everything works out for the good. So I wanted to share some statistics, because, the Trevor Project did a survey in 2022 that I don't think we talk about enough. Unless you're actually, those of us plugged in, then it's great. But I want to say, I don't think people understand the importance of having that home unit be somebody who you feel has your back. And I want to say, so they discovered 45% of LGBTQ youth seriously consider attempting suicide. They did that in the year 2022. So that's up from, it's hard. And this is why people need to be like, hi, kids matter. Like, get over whatever issues you have. We need to save our kids. So I'm so sorry that was.
Sorry, my daughter was just hospitalized in June.
I'm so
for
sorry.
attempting suicide. So
this is real.
It's real fresh and real raw still.
Yeah, this is real, and I'll try to stay away from that kind of thing. But
it's real.
I knew this would happen.
No, it's
right.
It's something we
I didn't
go
wear
through.
Contacts for a reason.
Right? Exactly. Well, and that's the thing that I want. This show is not only, of course, for the LGBTQ community. It's why we call it Queer, to open up that moniker, because that includes so many people. Because I think it's important that we talk about these things and that we're honest about these things. Politicians need to be doing more for this. Let's see if I know I have a good one in here that is more positive. LGBTQ youth who felt high social support from their family reported attempting suicide at less than 1/2 of the rate that was going in 2022. This to me alone, there's lots of stats. If anybody would like to check it out, check out the Trevor Project Survey 2022. They surveyed 34,000 young adults from 13 to 24 across the entire U.S. It is an excellent way to get an idea of what's going on around us. But one of the things that I think that alone, that stat tells us, is it means a lot if you can feel like your parent, one of your parents at least, is there supporting you? Like you're saying your child is in the not sure, one of your children, not sure stage. How amazing is it that they have a parent that's like, that's okay. Like you need to find, that's what being an adolescent is all about. Find who you are. But let's rewind. Let's say as each of you like discovered new information that was shared with you way back and it was your first kid. What was that journey like?
You mean like when our kids first came to us?
Right. When it never crossed your mind and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this is coming.
Well, I think both of these ladies can vouch that I knew from a very young age that Tyson was not straight. He is just, I would say by 5 I knew, and he came to me at 7 and he said that he was gay. And then as he's grown and gotten older, it's become more of, I'm really not sure where I fall.
Right.
And I mean, most people I think knew before I did if they had met him. And that's okay. He's an amazing young kid. And when he first came to me, I mean, I can't say that I was surprised, but I really expected to deal with this as a parent. You know, it wasn't something that it was in any, well, not that there is a parenting handbook, but definitely wasn't in anything that I thought of. And at that time, because he was so young, I hugged him and I said, you know, Tyson, I don't care who you love. You know, I love you. You're my son. I'm always going to have your back. And we're just going to put this on the shelf. And as you grow and mature, we'll discuss it more. You know, if you need to talk about it, come to us and we'll talk about it.
I think it's that acknowledgement that you're loved.
Exactly.
You know, that, I mean, we're not looking to put them through queer studies in college right now. We're just saying you're okay.
Yeah. And that's,
in this moment.
That was what was important to me because, like, no matter what, I just want them to know that I'm here and I love them and that's never going to change.
Right. Did you ever have, now this is probably, this is the one thing I will say. A lot of people point to more kids are coming out. Like, if there's something going on. No, there's not something going on. We just finally live in a place where we can have conversations. The kids always existed. They existed in 1920. They exist in 2020. It's just now there is more support socially if they're looking, because if you're on social media, you can gear towards what community you need. And then it gives them the courage to have the conversation earlier. I mean, when I had the first, it wasn't even a conversation. It was whispering to my sisters at 6 years old that I thought my best friend Danny was cute. And it was in their reaction that I realized, oh, something's not okay about it. But I didn't know as a kid. Because to me, there wasn't something wrong. But you learn by your family's reaction to what it is. So as you two, as you're learning these new things, did fear creep in? What was that initial knee-jerk reaction?
Well, yeah, because my Ash came out 3 years ago with non-binary for a good while, just kind of exploring, dressing different, and then not very long after that was trans and really took on dressing more male. Yeah. And I was terrified because we live in Idaho and it's Trump land and we have Let's Go Brandon kids. And like, if you're not wearing camo and carrying a shotgun, you don't really fit in North Idaho. So, and it's tough because that's different. And my kid, you know, grew up in this certain kids and then they knew them their whole lives. And then all of a sudden they're changing their appearance and kids are not good with that, and they argue here's your dead name, and and they don't like to follow through with it. So it's terrifying navigating that, and as they come out in bathroom situations, which we had an issue this year with the bathroom. Ash got attacked in the bathroom. It was very small smidge after the Idaho law. It was within that week that they passed the law, you have to go to the bathroom of your assigned gender. Right. And Ash was in the bathroom and there was another friend that was also like non-binary. And so they were in the girls' room because they had to. And Ash went in and the other friend was leaving and was in the stall. And there's a couple girls in there like, I hate those trans people. They should kill themselves. And my kid was in the stall like curled up like on the seat and like just terrified and texting me and recorded it. And Mom, I'm in the bathroom and these kids are like threatening and saying things about trans kids. Probably didn't know that Ash was in there. And so I called the school. I'm like, get my kid out of there. You deal with this. I sent them the recording, you know, and they wouldn't talk about it after that. They wouldn't follow up with what they did. Of course. And there's been many of the instances. That was just like a really tough one this year. And it caused my kid to not really want to go to the bathroom. Like, you know, how bad is that? Your kid
exactly
is terrified to go because that causes health problems, you know.
And here's the thing that you don't always realize as a kid, but does Ash understand what a badass? I mean, just surviving. I mean, there used to be the phrase back in the day, walking while trans. I mean, it's such a huge, and I mean, even though that's a lot of responsibility to put on a kid, but I hope there's moments where they recognize how awesome they are for doing the work that they shouldn't have to do.
They got a strong personality. They're definitely my child. My other child's a little different. She's autistic, so she's got a little bit of her neurodivergency and accepting things. She's very concrete, so it's a little different with her. But my youngest is pretty tough, thick-skinned. But sometimes you could see when it's worn down. You could see it's really hard day and just comes home and shuts down. You know that's a bad day, and just they don't talk about it. But like just holding them and just being there is.
You learn self-care real quick because sadly that's just life. And the moments where you need to do a little coping, where it's not always easy, right?
It hurt me so hard, you know. I'm trying to hold it and trying to, you know, without reacting so big, but like.
Right. That would not be easy. Not at all.
It's not at all.
What's your experience been like?
I mean, kind of the same thing with the bathroom. Willow, I don't think she used the bathroom at school this entire school year.
Wow.
And for the majority of the year, actually the entirety of the year that she was in school, she was identified as non-binary. The full transition came like while we were actually waiting for her to get admitted to the hospital. Wow. But she's been dressing more feminine, wearing inserts for boobs for pretty much the whole school year.
Yeah.
And she has a great, really small group of friends, and the teachers were phenomenal. It was just
nice.
We actually, even the vice principal, was phenomenal. So that was helpful. But she just, since last school year, so 8th grade and 9th grade, she's had the same kind of handful of kids that are just harassing, and she started putting pride flags on her backpack, and kids will rip them off and throw them, and so we bought like a pack of 100, so every time that happens she comes back the next day with a new one. It's
so weird because we all know on the best day where there's nothing huge, kids can be mean. So this is what I always want to say to the haters out there. Why would a child put themselves through this if it was not so important to them to express who they are? They're not coming to your frickin' Florida school to piss you off. They're coming to exist and to learn and to just be
themselves.
Yeah. And it's insane to me that a bunch of adults are acting like a bunch of bully children. Yeah. You know, to our kids. And it's got to be hard as moms. I mean, having kids, I have dogs, so it's not the same thing, but I would kill people for my dog. Like, don't mess with my dog. It's going to be 20 bazillion times higher and more intense. So I almost feel like y'all go through your own, like, trauma for it. You know, it may be different, but it's still traumatic. You know, mom has to worry at night. Mom has to do that. We'll have you each do this question too. How do you cope when it's a little harder than, you know, a usual day for you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I was just thinking why the girls were talking. It's like there's so many moments where I have to keep my reaction lower than it would be, you know, because I don't want them to, you know, have more like, oh my gosh, mom's freaking out or whatever. Like, so, you know, it's like, go cry in my own time. You know, right. I feel really lucky to have like both of them because it gives me somebody to talk to. I think Jessica can vouch that when something happens, I am texting her going, oh my gosh, I'm going to freak out. You know, and sometimes it's really hard because hate doesn't just come from like the kids at school. It comes from family. It comes from, you know, like close people. And sometimes it's not even hate as much as misunderstanding and thinking that they have to understand to love. So for me, I mean, there's definitely a lot of quiet time where I'm, you know, trying to figure out how to go to the next step because I don't know all the answers. Like, I've had to do a lot of research, and I've had to confront my own biases that I didn't even know I had because holy crap, like, why do I think that way?
Yeah.
And that one's been a tough one for me. But, you know, overall, it's just trying to practice a tiny bit of self-care occasionally.
And you have to like try to practice even more. You're going through so much that I think that's so important, especially because it keeps you strong. Because you're right. You almost have to, I mean, you're being there for your kids. So you have to kind of, when you're around the kid, like you all have said, you know, I can't go big. But that's hard when you love them so much. So being able to take care of mom helps them, and it's not easy, but I just want to encourage you. First of all, I can't talk about it too much, I'll cry. I was talking about this with coworkers today. It doesn't matter that I'm 47 years old. The power of being loved by someone who is that significant in your life is gigantic. And we need to remember to care for the moms just as much because it's a war. You know, and it's not fair. And I mean, and I love that your children are so open. Like, it's more open. When I was coming out, it was like, well, I can be gay or straight. Oh no, there are so many more options now. And I think that helps. I had a friend come to me with just coming out new because they said they started watching stories, non-binary, started watching stories, and they realized they could never put a label on it. But the minute they read these stories, they recognized themselves. And I'm like, the coming out process never ends. We need the people. And you said a key statement that I have to repeat, which is you do not have to understand someone to love them. Mm-hmm. Because we cannot understand people 100%. That's what empathy is. Just for a second, put yourself in their shoes and go, oh, this must be rough for them. I don't have to be a lesbian. I don't have to be transgender. I don't have to be any of that to go, okay, fuck, we need to like circle the wagons and support each other. Sure. And it is this, we are taught these understandings. Well, no, you must understand everything, and it has to fit these cultural rules, and it doesn't have to do shit. It's your kid.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to love them. Okay, I'll stop preaching. My dad was a preacher. It gets in the way. But please comment on that same kind of what it's like.
Well, like all that was talking was bringing me back to when my kid had, when Ash had a band concert. Yeah. And Ash is like the top drummer in 7th grade and was just killing it, like killing it on the drums. And then like at the end, they were done and my parents are like, yeah, you know, my dad's like the biggest cheerleader. Awesome. And he's like, I don't know anything about it, but it was really good. And, you know, and so we get done and Ash is like, saw their friend and was like, oh, I want you to meet my friend's parents. But we kind of got nearish, and I could hear the parents saying to a kid and pointing at my kid, be like, I don't want you friends with anybody like that. And I'm like, so we curtailed that situation, and I tried to hope my kid didn't hear it, but like that killed me, you know? I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Okay, so I just heard that.
You should have been like, you mean like a talented person? Yeah. You don't want to do friends with
like,
that?
I'm like, and a button-down shirt?
Right.
Nice. I don't know, but that was killer. So like when you have these moments that are really, really hard, you try to find the people that say the good things. Like my dad will be like, that was so good. And he'll like tell Ash how great it was. And, focus on that and try to celebrate those great things. Spend quality time and try to really get beyond those things that are really hurtful.
Right.
Spend time, drink lots of wine.
Hell yeah.
Whatever.
That's the
whatever. Truth. It's Idaho, you gotta.
I mean, it's helpful. It is a coping mechanism.
It's sad. It's not a good one. But, sometimes you're just like, that sucks, and that's reality. And, but you have to look internal. You're like, okay, I'm doing good. I'm not that person being so judgmental and like telling my kid that, like, you got to self-reflect a little bit too, but you're like, that's tough.
Yeah. Listen, so gay here. Broadway show tune. Children will listen. There's a whole song about it. Like, be careful what we... So people like that, why would you want to pass on hate? Listen, everybody's going to get to be an adult and make their own decisions on what they think of things, and we hope they're all good and loving. But the fact is, why would you do that to your child? Like the man we were talking about earlier, putting a sign in his son's... And he's a young boy. He is not... I would not even guess him to be a teenager. Putting those horrible hate-filled signs in his son. These people talk about... us indoctrinating children. What the fuck do you call that?
Right. Hate is learned.
Yes, it is. Yes. See, this is way too passionate a show for me. This is where
We could go deep.
I know. And for you, it's been rough.
It's been, I mean, this last school year out of, I'd say, the last 6 years of my life has definitely been the hardest, but also I've seen the most progress with her and healing just from past trauma, but now we're throwing in this trauma.
Right.
And I do a lot of disassociating. I've gotten really good at disassociating.
Yeah.
So when we're having a really bad day, I go lay down and I watch some Netflix and play some Candy Crush and just ignore the world.
And those are legit coping mechanisms.
Which probably also not the best, but
I feel like when life is this
way
tough,
too
you're
much.
allowed to watch a Netflix show. You're not out shooting up or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I'm just binge watching Grey's Anatomy and Law and Order. So
oh, well, you have 8 years of that. So, no, actually, it's probably 800 by this time. So
19
you
seasons.
Oh, shit.
I'm currently in the process of Law and Order SVU, and I have made it through 20 seasons in about 2 months.
I've been doing that with
So-
Supernatural. Because I just like,
That's on the list,
listen,
yeah.
not only is it a great show, but you get to look at those boys through the whole time. I'm like, this is my therapy in this moment.
Agreed.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I'm like, oh, I don't think I blocked the camera. I always have to watch Kurt because he's going to tell me if I block you guys' shot just over here. I want to, so you had mentioned y'all knew each other, your kids knew each other, right? How did the bond begin to grow between the three of you? You realize, because you have such a really good like support system going on here. You know what I mean?
I think all of our
How'd that
kids were friends way before like the LGBTQ thing happened. I mean, her oldest and my oldest have not liked each other, and
But they
liked each
dated.
other, and
They dated. They had the first kiss.
Wow. They've been watching CW too much.
I didn't know that part.
I don't think I knew that.
Oh, sorry.
Skate Plaza.
Surprise.
I knew they dated. I didn't know about the kiss. But I think just knowing that that there is somebody else like them is helpful. I mean, both of my kids will be homeschooled this year. My oldest has been online for a couple years because it was just too much for him. Yeah. He had social anxiety as well as, dealing. He came out in 7th grade, even though I think he knew before that, but was scared.
Sure. Yeah.
Part of what I think helps him is just knowing, hey, like, I could go to, Willow or Jessica even, like, to talk about these things because somebody is like me. And I know Tyson has been like a kind of a silent cheerleader for Willow a lot, and Ash, because he sees a lot of that in himself. And he, is like, his favorite word right now is slay. So it's always like, oh, she looks so slay. And she was slaying that.
She does, though. Willow looks slay, just saying.
Kids are cooler than I am. I'm like,
Willow's
I
got
love that.
all the style, just saying.
That's amazing. Slay. I'm gonna now all my nieces and nephews will make fun of me because I said it. But yeah, I think that's amazing.
Lit.
I asked my daughter, like my youngest, I was going to a drag show, and I was like, does this work? And she's like, slay girl. And I was like, all right.
Okay, take
all
it.
right,
I think this works. I'll wear it.
That'll be it. I have to say, like, it isn't, and I would say North Idaho, very rough, and yet this serendipity that these three moms going through a lot have found that support with each other. Do you know other moms out there?
I felt like we I think we got a little closer when we do a thing called Rainbow Squad in Post Falls or Coeur d'Alene or Rostrum, wherever they do it. And they get a lot of haters, and you get the picketers and the guy with the thing, and then the anti-abortion person. That really throws me off. Like, which crowd are you talking to?
They're like, you guys hate? I hate. Let's come together.
Yeah,
that's what they're saying.
and so they're out there just yelling at the kids and being hateful. And so we come together and we're like putting up rainbow like umbrellas, and we're standing there like making a wall, and we're like
Right.
supporting the hell out of our kids. And I think what they meant to drive us apart, we all formed a community of and keep each other's
And I think
kids safe.
our kids knew each other before we had met, because they've been, I mean,
Yes.
Willow's been in and out of online and in person and online,
Yeah.
and it's just been a back and forth for like 4 years. So I think Willow and Violet met, I'm going to say probably in 7th grade. and
Probably.
got a little
Wow.
closer in 8th grade because she
Yeah.
did most of 7th grade online. But
They did Human Rights Club at the high school. They
I
were
love that
pretty
they even.
rockin'.
I'm surprised that is in the school over
There's
there.
like 4 kids. It's like it's like that big a deal.
Right.
in
some of the
Aspen.
kids actually tell their parents it's art club because they can't,
Listen, they're not
mean,
dummy.
I
They're
would
no
say all
dummies.
of Willow's friends that are queer or trans are in the closet at home.
Oh,
So
Wow.
absolutely.
Because for safety, they just feel.
I actually picked one of them up for just to go hang out one time, and I pulled in, I met the mom, and I backed out as fast as I could.
Yeah.
I made sure she could not see the back of my car where all my bumper stickers are.
Right?
And
Like, why is
she
she just
actually
driving
thinks-
backwards? That's it.
Weird.
Odd. Yeah.
She actually thinks that Willow was assigned female at birth, so
I get
makes
that.
it a little
So,
safer.
Right? Because of
for
the
her.
assumptions. Yeah.
And then I just did never say her child's name when I was texting her because I
Yeah.
didn't want to out him, obviously, but
Right.
I also didn't want a dead name.
Yeah, exactly. Which I love that moms are sitting here and know about that, because it's amazing how people in the queer community took a while to understand, and I would still say there is discrimination within the queer community. Thank God, a lot of people are over the last few years are not being dicks, which I appreciate. So I love that, just to hear that because. I'm just a gay guy, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's nice to hear that. Oh, like,
Only.
oh, I'm so much more. But so, what is it? Do your kids get you guys are outspoken, and to be this outspoken, I mean, even a little outspoken, and in that kind of community is a big deal. But to be this outspoken, do your kids know that you do these things? You're out there. You want to be.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
will say being outspoken is new to me. I think the girls can vouch for that. I'm not one that I haven't always been, I don't even know where I am as far as liberal or whatnot.
Right.
I've voted both sides,
Yeah.
and when I voted for Obama, my dad told me that he raised me better than that.
Oh,
and
wow.
I just said, you raised me to have my own opinion.
Yeah.
Dad.
There it
and,
is. Yep.
And I think this whole experience has been super educational for me. And I haven't gone to a lot of the Rainbow Squads out of fear.
Yeah.
You
It is
know,
scary.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have the same voice that they do. It's
Yeah.
different, and it's not because I don't want to, but I'm scared. I'll admit it. It scares me, and I'm in education. My husband's in education. We have
Yeah.
to be careful to a certain
Yeah.
degree of who we piss off.
Yeah.
You
Right?
know.
Same.
Well, we
I
don't
get
want to
it.
lose our
I get it.
jobs, you
Yeah.
know, but my husband recently told me I needed a hobby, and
Alrighty.
I told him that my hobby was going to be advocacy, and
Love that.
I don't think he expected me to take it there, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of reached a point, I'm turning 40 this year.
It's not so bad on this side. Not so bad.
I'm dealing,
Yeah.
and I kind of don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids. Jessica made my son a shirt for Spokane Pride, and it's Harry Potter, and it says no one should live in the closet.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I don't want my kids to be afraid.
Yeah.
And the only way that they're not going to be afraid is if I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say always give yourself some grace, because first of all, we say on the show a lot, I've been loud my whole life because it for some reason is part of my personality. But not everybody can be that, right? And not everybody needs to be. You find out where your strength is and and that can be just as loud. But we need to not, and I think it's because the world seems to be so against a lot of people that we feel like if we're not out there on the top of a mountain, we're not good enough. Not all of us need to be there. Find where you are comfortable and feel good and know. I mean, look, you're on a freaking show right now. I learned about you guys through my photographer friend, Hera, and so you're out there doing it. don't think it has to look one way for it to be legit. And I think those of us, I always say to people, you don't have to be the loudest in the room. Support those that are. Or go be loud. This is loud, whether you realize it. It's a safe. And I think moms need to give themselves some credit. It takes a lot. And coming from, I think there's a lot of me out there that see it and, like I said earlier, need to celebrate it and encourage it so that there's more moms and more moms. And speaking of that, I want to say, so free mom hugs, free mom. Yeah. Free mom hugs is, right? Probably, I remember the first time I was marching in Pride and there's this woman and she's got her signs and she's giving out free mom hugs and I had never seen this. And I, of course, for a very long time did not have access to my family. I cannot tell you what that did. And that there were these women out there that were like, I'm going to offer you some love, and then hopefully someday your mom will come fill in. But if she doesn't, guess what? I'm going to go out. That says a lot. I talk on the show about when my brother was like, what the hell is a free mom hugs? Because he's in Wenatchee. They had Wenatchee Pride. And having that conversation of why that's important, why we all need that moment of feeling accepted. You tell a story that I'll have you tell again about something that happened to you today, I think? Yesterday. Talk to us about that.
So Jessica, she's awesome at making shirts. She made me a free mom hug shirt for Pride. And I walked around in Spokane Pride with that on. And that was my first time ever at any Pride. Yeah. And there was so many moms with it on. And then my 77-year-old great aunt had a free free Grammy hugs.
That's awesome.
But I didn't get any hugs at Pride. So I was a little just sad.
Yeah.
And then I wore it again yesterday. We were at Winco. I was waiting for my husband and my son to come through the line, and this lady, I didn't even see her. She saw me, walked up and said, "Can I really have a hug?" And I'm like, absolutely. And you could she was shaking, and I was just like, I hugged her, and she's like, "Thank you so much." And you could tell she was about to cry.
Oh, for
and
real.
She walked away, and then the lady behind her said, "I love your shirt."
Oh, that's amazing.
And then I was like, and my son, my 12-year-old was like, "Did you get a hug?" He's like, "Oh, Mom."
That would be him.
I love it. I can tell. Kindred spirits. I
so
understand that.
Oh, he's adorable.
But it's in the power. Even you, the mom giving the free mom hug, can feel the power of what that's doing. And I think there's people out there who it might not be that they're part of the LGBTQ, IA plus, all the things. It might not be part of that community, but they still need to feel that acceptance because, we've spent probably all of our existence in this world kind of hiding from it and judging each other. And I think that's amazing. So what's it like for y'all to be for a kid to identify, oh, this is a safe space and to put trust in you, whether it's a conversation or what's that like?
Winning, man. That's a winning feeling. That they're safe because you hear from their that their friends don't go by their preferred name. Right. They at home, I go by this. Don't call me that, and they wear stuff to school and they're like, "Hey, can you give me a binder?" Because my kid's got a whole slew of them, but they're like, I can't be, this way. And it's really tough, seeing the kids that can't, but my kids are totally there. Right. I'm like, okay, what do you need? I'll get it. Sure. Let's figure it out. And it feels really good. It feels really safe. They feel safe and they just bring it up and tell you all about all the things. That's when you've accomplished it.
They've got no other place to let that be. I think it's beautiful to see the look on a child's face when they find that there is a place they can just be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? What's the world like for you?
Even with my kids coming, it wasn't really this big thing. It was just oh, hey, by the way. Yeah. My daughter, when we were getting ready for Spokane Pride, she's like, "Can you do the lesbian flag in my makeup?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Are you a lesbian?" And she's like, "Didn't I tell you that?" And I was like, No, last conversation we had, you were still at the bi stage. Wow. And it was that was just it. So
see, that's my dream is a future like that, where it's just hey,
And my 11-year-old, he's somewhere in the middle. I mean,
right? And yet, look at this. You love them, no matter what. And you just accept that, well, someday.
I always said that I would be more disappointed in having all straight children. And my oldest daughter, when she was like, I think 9 months old, when she started crawling to Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Oh,
so
hell
I
yeah.
feel like I should have known from the get-go. But nobody, even my really conservative Catholic grandparents, they weren't really shocked by it. Like, it took some time. The they, them pronouns that we went by for about a year were a struggle.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a struggle for like the first 6 months. And then we had some pretty serious conversations, and they still slip up, but they instantly correct themselves. There's no rolling of the eyes, which is what the biggest issue. And
it's all, and also I always tell people that it's okay as long as you're always trying to be respectful, and it's in intention in when I think about it. But I think that's amazing. Like, I want a world one day that we are so evolved that it doesn't even matter. Like, you just are, whoever you are, because it's confusing just being a human. You know what I mean? To add the pressure that we put on, and kids, for goodness sake, they're still trying to figure everything out. And now we would like to give you a college exam. I always tell my friends who have a problem with pronouns that, especially my straight male friends, I'm like, you name your fucking car.
Yeah.
And you expect me to remember, who cares? You can't say they want to be called them. How? It's not that hard. You're just being stubborn.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not, we make big deals. I mean, even looking at our politicians, huge deals over things that are not that huge, but they need to make, because as long as they keep us afraid, they can control us. As long as they make someone the lesser than, they can control a population. And what is you guys' governor, last name Little or something? Like, Tiny Dick. That's what I call him. I even got a laughter out of Kurt is never impressed with me. So that's a big deal. But it's true. I remember doing research when I was going over to Sandpoint. I'm like, I want to know some stuff. Awful. I remember Butch Otter back in the day. I'm like, you just constant gross. Spokane's mayor, we can't say a whole lot more because we have bad mayors. But that's got to be, do you feel like warriors?
Yes. You should have seen,
love
oh my
this.
gosh, Sandpoint's Pride was so funny because we left at 6 or something, and there's a lady putting all those like Jesus, go to our church, you're going to hell things on everybody's windows. And so I saw her doing it. And then my kids went 2 rows, and they went and pulled all of them up, and they're all fanning themselves, and they were rainbow. It was really funny. I don't know why they made them rainbow, but like, you're going to hell rainbow. And so they pulled them. They must have got 50 of them. And that lady at the end just looked at them like.
I also we don't go to your church and sit in your pews and then heckle the pastor. Why are you coming to our events?
We don't care.
Exactly.
We don't care.
There was a guy in the
about what
parking
they do
lot,
over
and
there.
he had this big sign, and he kept looking at me. And I was pretending I was on the phone. And he kept looking at me, and he kept saying, he had a sign that said, "They're lying to you. We don't hate you. We just want to save you." And I'm like, okay, all of that was the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. Because they think for some reason you have a right to tell me that your beliefs are better than mine.
Or like they say, they say, Jesus loves you, and then we're like, or something like that, and we're like, oh, I love you too, back. And they're like, we don't want your love.
Yeah, they're like, that's not what this was.
We don't want your love. I'm like,
the library meeting we went to a few months ago. So I pulled on to the street, and I saw the signs. At first, I saw a big rainbow. I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, just kidding. Nope. And so I pull into the parking lot, and I have all of my kids in the car, and I just look at the guy, and I smile, and I wave, and he just glares at me. And I'm like, if you truly think you're going to change my way of thinking, is that how you do it?
No.
Like, I was being a smart ass. Like, I find the protesters so amusing. And
oh my God, they're just,
but I know that, but I die. I laugh, and I keep rainbow flags. I now have I have a trans colored umbrella in the car. Like, they stay in the car all of the time just so I can pull it out if I need to.
It is amazing. Reverend Phelps, I don't know if you guys are old enough to know who that horrible human is. Westboro Baptist Church. He would go around. And so because of him and the Matthew Shepard situation that happened, we had the people who came up with the long, that's where the angels came from. Where they would wear because they didn't want Matthew Shepard's funeral picketed by these assholes. And so so this is what I love about humanity. The good parts of humanity. We create the best part of ourselves out of the ugliness that is thrown at us. And I think a Mom Brigade is just that. I must say, you'll always be the Mom Brigade to me. Because we need more. I always talk about allies. Allies are so important because they don't have, you can be their kid, but they don't have to try to understand you. They don't have to love you. You hope they do as your mom, but you choose to step outside of yourself to be there for another. And that's what matters. And that's what more of us, see, we're doing it again. That's what more of us
You're gonna make
needed.
me cry.
I know it gets a thing, but that's how important these things are. That's how important our children are. You know?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what you're saying with church, and this has been like a real struggle for me because I can't tell you how many people have told my son he's going to hell.
What the?
And you know, I feel like so many people say God doesn't make mistakes.
Right.
So are you telling me my child's a mistake?
Right.
You know, my son, my 12-year-old, has been a dancer, and he has a great studio. And earlier this year, a 14-year-old girl cornered him and told him that little faggots belong in the corner, and he will burn in hell because he's an abomination.
What the fucking?
And I mean, I gave the studio the opportunity to take care of it, and they kicked her out. And I had never felt so validated in my life. Right. Because every time I go to the school when he's called a fag, or, you know, kids make sexual, you know, innuendos to him and stuff, and nothing ever gets done.
Right.
And it's the same thing every day. And which is why he's staying home this year, because when my 12-year-old tells me that he, you know, wants to kill himself because he believes he's going to hell.
Right.
And there's so many terrible churches in North Idaho and everywhere.
Yes.
One of the things I loved about Spokane Pride was seeing so many churches in
the affirming congregations. Yeah.
So my son has gone to several youth groups. And now one of the first questions I ask is, you know, tell me what your stance is. Like, where are you on LGBTQ kids? And there's a very terrible monopolized church in our area that does not allow children to wear any type of pride, will make trans kids sit with their assigned birth and pull them out in front of people.
It's embarrassing. I had that experience with mine. Do you guys?
We don't go there.
Well, they wanted to go with their friends, and their friends like, come on, they're really accepting, because they don't understand that until they're in those shoes, and they're like, you need to go with the girls section, and then they like outed them, cornered them. What's your gender at birth? Because my kid said boy, and they just like were cornering, outing, just really grilling my kid. It was very inappropriate, and my kid's like, get me out of here.
And that question is none of their damn business. And what in the world?
Mega church in North Idaho, and they have multiple locations.
They sent out a letter a couple years ago, basically, you know, denouncing the LGBTQ. The last church that my son went to a couple weeks ago, the youth pastor had messaged me that he went one time, and I asked him, you know, what's their stance on that? And he goes, well, you know, we believe that love and sex should be between a man and a woman, but all sinners are welcome. I'm like,
oh my God. That's like, the arrogance of, well, I'll put it this way.
Love the sinner, hate the sinner.
Yeah, which is bullshit. And also, what drives me crazy is I'm like, I am not an idea for you and I to agree to disagree on. So if you have issue with just me as a person, I'm just going to disagree with you right now, and we need to move on. But this idea that has started to come up a lot in the last probably decade, which is it's okay. We're being loving Christians if we just tell you that we just agree to disagree. No. You want us to be second-class citizens and to be quiet and just accept the world as you have it. Well, that's not what we're here for.
That's politics. You can't do that with...
Exactly.
You can't do that with somebody's life.
Exactly, which is why I keep trying to teach more and more people. Don't accept that. Don't accept it in your life. No. Understand you have a right to say, oh, that doesn't work for me.
My 12-year-old goes, he's like, why did you do that, Mom? And I'm like, because nobody has the right to treat you that way, and if you can't stand up for yourself, I will.
Hallelujah, amen, yes. See, this is church. This is church to me. It is so hard.
Because they're all against you, and you're one person. You're like,
Well, and we have 200 years of a culture that has ingrained in us so there's always in the back of your mind where you're like, am I supposed to be okay? You know, as long as they don't blatantly hate me. No, right on. No, because until more of us stand up and say, okay, politicians, fuck off. Like, this has nothing to do with you. This is, it's for our children. It's for the adults going through it. It's for our humanity. And I no longer accept what you think is all right to do with people that are none of your business. You are not raising my children. I would not let you babysit my children. You know what I mean?
For real. I wouldn't want you in the same room as them.
No. Please, I don't trust a lot of, like, these leaders.
I had a client a couple of months ago, and we were just talking. I would say she was in her 70s. And first she brought up gun control.
Oh, wow.
And some ignorance there, you know.
She's going all in.
She literally said that the kids that are shooting up schools don't understand what's happening when they pull that trigger. And I'm like, I was like, never mind that it's not always kids.
Yeah, no, it
too
is
many
not.
adults. And then she brought up pit bulls, and I'm an avid pit bull lover.
Yeah, me too.
And then she brought up, and her exact words were transvestites. And in the moment that word came out of her mouth, I was like,
wow.
okay, here we go.
This is Rocky
Yeah.
Horror Picture
And
Show.
I
Exactly.
tried,
Is
and
this 1952?
She just kept
Okay.
going, and it was the bathroom situation. And
Oh,
she's like,
motherfucker.
I think they need to use their bathroom, you know, assigned, you know, their gender at birth or whatever. And I don't know what. I
They
was
don't
like,
want that.
They
though.
want to go to the
Are
bathroom.
we going to card at the bathroom
to
door?
go pee.
Right?
I'm
yeah.
like, and she's
That
like,
is the
well, I
one
can
purpose.
always tell. I can always tell. And I'm like, and I didn't. I left my daughter out of it at this point.
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
But the first time she saw my daughter, because she was with me one day because she couldn't go to school, and this client instantly started calling her she. And it was actually a day that she was struggling so much with her gender dysmorphia.
Oh, what a beautiful moment.
So
this.
hearing just a complete strange older lady call her she
Right.
was a huge deal. And I just, you know, I never corrected. I didn't say
Right,
anything.
exactly.
And so she kept going. And I tried to keep my own feelings out of it.
Right, which is
Because, like,
hard.
I'm in the middle of my job and I still need you to
Right.
pay me when you're done. But I waited 24 hours and I'm like, hey, I was like, so here's the situation. And I was like, I am the parent of a transgender child.
Yeah.
And I was like, going forward, I don't think we have a relationship here. And her response to me was like, literally like 7 screenshots worth of a text message.
Oh my God. Was she doubling down or was she understanding that she
was
kind of
trying
went?
because she knows somebody. So she had friends back in the 90s that were a lesbian couple that were married.
Yeah.
But then one transitioned and they tried to stay married. Well, that transition kind of just made things fall apart.
Yeah.
And her friend was hurt in the process. And I'm like, I'm somebody who was hurt by somebody's
Right?
sexuality coming out. There's a whole nother story
Right.
to that, but that was almost like giving her a reason to, like, I'm
Yeah.
not really sure where she was
Yeah.
trying to go with it. It was all over the place.
Well, it's that
And it
whole
was just
thing about blaming, like,
the gaslighting.
yeah, and blaming an ethnicity.
And then
for,
she was like, you hurt me. So, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
Wow.
I've only met you 3 times. I've spent a total of 4 hours with you. So
Exactly. I
too
love
worried
that you
about it.
just said it. Like, this is what, you know, this isn't going to work because of this. But you know what? The first thing we do when we feel like called on our shit is that's the first panic of, I need to make it their fault. I'll feel better. We all do it. You know what I mean? So I think that's now. First of all, I think we could probably talk for 8 hours, and I am
could.
really surprised you guys don't have a podcast. I'm just gonna say,
All right, is that next, ladies?
Next
oh
week.
God.
I just think the
I think
message.
we'll call it the Mom Brigade.
I think
You
it's a great
should.
idea.
Yes.
I think you're onto something.
I'm telling you, because we need,
need a
those
hobby,
voices.
right? I do.
Yeah,
I need a hobby.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Self-care.
It's exactly
I
right.
mean,
we
my therapist
need.
keeps telling me I have got to do something for
Listen,
myself.
yeah, my therapist keeps
Thank
saying,
you.
maybe
Good job.
quiet, maybe
Thanks for
quiet
helping
down.
us.
No, I'm telling you, the power of the voice is amazing to me. You know, I have that whole quote of, you know, if your story had no value, everyone wouldn't be trying to silence you. Mm-hmm. This is so important. And this just encapsulated moment in time, we need more of it. And listen, I love that PFLAG exists. I love that the Free Mom Hugs, which is an actual 501c3. I love that actually exists. But there's never enough, especially not when it's so ugly out there. Because this, for an older gay man who talks to his mom now, she doesn't know it, to see what it just does for my heart to know that it exists out there and that it is getting better for our kids, and not ever wanting the children to experience anything that I had to experience. It needs to get better. This is what's needed. I'm telling you, you heard it here first. There will be a podcast. There will be, guaranteed. But if you could give one last parting thought to our listeners, some little piece of advice or even of cheerleading, what would it be? This is your Oprah moment.
It's your Oprah.
Yeah.
You get a car.
Yes.
I would say that it's important to know that you don't have to understand. You just have to be. Like, just love them, and everything else will come with it.
Yep, exactly. That is probably one of the biggest lessons. We said it like a few times in this, but please take it to heart. Sit with that phrase. If you don't let it sink in yet, sit with that phrase. What would you say?
Be open-minded. You might learn something.
That's crazy talk. Like, what are you?
Insane.
Right, it is.
Insanity.
But it's true. And look at how much more your heart grows when you're like, I don't understand this, but I'm going to just
I've gotten
being
that.
open
I
up.
felt that as a person. That's kind of how my journey with everything.
See, I think that's amazing. And for you.
I mean, the energy you put out there is the energy you're going to get back.
Exactly.
I mean, it's as simple as that. Be a good person, and you're going to be surrounded with good people.
Yeah, and if you're a cheerleader, you'll find your cheerleaders.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And these kids are going to grow up to be fucking phenomenal human beings because of the moms they had. You know what I mean? So I know it's not always easy, but hold to those things. You're doing beautiful work with these kids. And I had put up a post today, and I had been talking to some people, and I said, especially to my people in my queer peer group, this is my opportunity to say thank you, because this we need. So thank you from this queer guy, and from, I can guarantee you, so many others who are going to listen to this. And I feel like this badass mom trio will have to come back in the future. We'll figure out, maybe we'll meet in the middle, because I feel so bad that you drove so far.
It's not that far.
It really isn't that bad of a drive.
We need to get out of town.
I don't, yeah.
Just saying.
This is a true statement. But these conversations need to be had. Just take away the thought of, I wonder what a podcast would be like, in all honesty. Because your words, I mean, my dad used to get mad at me, and I'm like, Dad, we're the same thing. We just have different pulpits. And this is that soapbox to stand on that I think is so very important, especially now. So thank you all very much.
Thank you for having us.
It was
You're
more
so
than a
sweet.
pleasure. Oh, I'm just kind of a crazy gay man.
And I like your flair. All your flair.
Can I just say, I tell you guys about this all the time. This is vintage Disney buttons from 30 years ago. That you
Ancient.
Yeah, and they'll give them to you. I was there 30 years ago, and they start giving you this stuff, and now I'm like, I'm glad I kept it. I've already got my 90s, denim, so it's on.
Dig it.
I know. So remember, everybody, our show drops every Tuesday at thequeercentric.com. You can also find it wherever podcasts are shown. And if you like to listen to it in your car, we've got the audio version. And if you like to see our beautiful faces, we have the video version. But go to our website right now. There's so many great episodes, and I already know this one's going to be mass consumed, so it's going to be amazing. So thank you all for being here for our little church service. And until next time.